Good day, fellow rockers and monsters. Welcome to the Metal Connection, the connection to all things metal. I'm J-Dub, and today on the show, actually, well, before I say that, I'm J-Dub, and actually joining me is Jody Turner.
Hey everyone.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and then we are doing our five favorite Accept albums, and mine's in order. I think yours is in order too, I believe.
Yeah, this is in order as it's going to be.
Right. So yeah, I guess we'll basically start off with our fifth least favorite, if you call it, fifth favorite, and then work our way up to number one. We'll go back and forth and
Yep,
see how
yep.
it all hashes out. I know Jody is a fan of newer era Accept, and that is why I wanted him on the show because I think between us both, we'll probably have a good balance between new and old and things like that. So we'll kind of see how that shakes out as well. And yeah, I did make some notes actually, some picking out some of my favorite songs and things like that. And yeah, so I have some notes and things like that. But anyway, we'll get going. I don't know if maybe I'll just go first since usually I'm used to doing a group show and there's four of us, and I usually get the guy below me to go first, but there is no guy below me, so maybe I'll just go first.
Yeah, change it up.
Sure. Okay, cool. Actually, I know what I was going to say. The reason I started talking about the notes is because when I was making my notes, it actually caused me to flip some of my order around. So it's kind of good that I didn't make the notes because when I started focusing on how many like very specific songs I loved from each album, it caused me to switch some of my ranking around. So that's actually kind of a cool thing that I didn't expect. So first off, I'm actually going with Balls to the Wall as my fifth favorite. And yeah, obviously, anyone watching the show right now knows who Accept is and probably is familiar with all these classic albums. So I don't really need to say anything more about Balls to the Wall other than some of my, well, and then probably, what did I say? Oh yeah, I know what I was gonna say is the first song, "Balls to the Wall," is probably one of the first songs I can actually ever remember hearing from Accept. I remember being a little kid, and believe it or not, I believe "Balls to the Wall" was on an ECW soundtrack.
Huh.
Yes, because one of the wrestlers, I don't remember who, but we're talking about wrestling like WWF, WCW, ECW. So there was a organization called the Extreme Championship Wrestling, ECW, and I had a soundtrack, an ECW soundtrack, and one of the wrestlers used to come out balls to the wall, and that's one of the first times I can strictly remember. Okay, this is Accept. This is balls to the wall. It's probably one of the first times that I had it in my brain that I knew who Accept was and things like that. And I would have been a young kid. I would have been like 10, 11, 12, something like that. So, this is mid 90s sort of thing. So, yeah, Balls to the Wall. That's actually the title track is probably one of the first songs I ever heard from Accept, well, knowingly. And then London Leather Boys, obviously, that's kind of a round up the gang going out night on the town kind of song. London Leather Boys, Fight It Back. We've got an awesome, gnarly opening little guitar noodle that he does there. And Love Child is Udo shines on that track on Love Child. The chorus is amazing. Yeah, just an amazing freaking song, Love Child there. And I don't know if you have Balls to the Wall in your list, but if you don't, if you have anything to chime in, or if you do, save it, I suppose.
Yeah, I got it later on. So,
Right, we'll save that then for later. And if you want to go up with your first pick.
okay. Well, like you said, I'm a fan of the new era of Accept. So, my fifth pick is Rise of Chaos, which is came out in 2017. Um, when it came out, I kind of like I listened to it and just kind of put it away. Never really thought about it for a while. And lately I listened to it again. And I've been listening to it more lately. I just find I love the production on that album. It's
Huh?
like loud and clear and like the guitars are really stand out in it to me. And I love like a fast-paced guitar-driven album, and to me, that's what this one's all about.
Yeah, well, and they have a newer one after that, don't they?
Yeah, yeah, they had one come out this year.
Yeah, so that's not the newest, but it's the one right before that. Yeah, and yeah, I'll be completely honest. I've never heard any of the new Accept. Not because I was thinking it's bad. It's just I was such a fan of Udo, and I seen Udo live. Like we both went to that Udo concert, and I was just so like I felt like had to be so loyal to Udo that I couldn't like turn my back on him, so to speak. So I never actually did listen to those newer Accepts, but I am coming around because. The singer there, Mark Tamillo or
I probably screw up the name, but
Tarnillo or something like that.
what's that?
Mark Tarnillo or
Vermillo, I think.
right. Yeah, no, he was in a band in the '80s called TT Quick, and I've been listening to that stuff, trying to gain more respect for him, basically. So once I go back and I listen to the TT Quick and say, okay, he was a great singer. He's talented. I have respect for him now. So now I am ready to listen to those new Accepts. So yeah, I'm sure they are great, and I'm sure, and obviously Wolf does have those killer guitar tones and killer kind of licks, and always has great solos. I know when I was making my notes, I was like, oh, great solo, great solo, great solo. But
Yeah, I I'm kind of like you, and I first heard Accept, it was balls to the wall, of course, and so that was my introduction to Accept, and I listened to the album a little bit. Didn't really like get full on into it at the time, but then what got me hooked on Accept was in 2010. I saw a bunch of lists of top 10 year-end album picks by people, and a lot had Blood of the Nations as number one for that year. And I went out and got the album, not even listening to it before. I'm like, okay, this has got to be good with this many people liking it. And I was just hooked ever since. So that's how I'm sort of a Mark fan. Like, I love Udo. The man is a legend. But I, I am one of those guys that slightly likes Mark's vocals a little more. So yeah, I'm the odd man out in that crew, but I think Udo's better with the ballads by far. But yeah, overall, I just sort of like Mark's vocals, and I think seeing Accept live in Vancouver a number of years back, um, I thought Mark was excellent as a frontman. He was like really energetic all over the stage, and yeah, it was one of my favorite shows ever seen at the Rickshaw for sure.
oh, Rickshaw, yeah, cool. Yeah, no, I have pulled up a live clip, like just watch it for a few minutes just to know what Mark was about, sort of thing. And he did seem very serviceable. He seemed like he was like pretty well spot on with everything. He has to try really hard, but he is spot on with it. And I do know a lot of people do like Newer Accept, and a lot of people do respect Newer Accept, and that is one of the reasons why I didn't want to just do a group show and have us all pick the same classic five. Essentially, I wanted to
Yeah,
get a variation because I know that those Newer Accept albums do deserve some respect and deserve some spotlight and credit and all these things. So I didn't want to just do a show where we just focus on all the classics because. Yeah, I do know a lot of people do like all that newer Accept, and it is respectable and it's good and great. And like you said, even that 2010 album got Best Album of the Year by some people. So that's one of the reasons why I did want to get you on the show to not just have the same five sort of thing or whatever. But yeah, to continue on, I'll go with my next pick. And I originally had this as my fifth, but when I was making the notes, I actually found I probably picked out more standout tracks from this album, so I did go with Objection Overruled as my fourth, number four. And 1993, this was their comeback album after Russian Roulette. They kind of disbanded for a bit. Udo went solo, and then I think whatever 6 years later, 5 years later, they come back with Objection Overruled. And right off the bat, the opening track, Objection Overruled, the band sounds refreshed, re-energized, and right, excited to do this. So right off the bat, it's kind of a good sign of things to come with the opening track. And I actually really love this album a lot. Well, seeing as how it did make my number four, but I did have a bunch of standout tracks. The Protectors of Terror, yeah, full of energy, cool chorus. And obviously, Wolf's always got those cool gang vocals. Bulletproof, great backing vocals, like again, good melodic guitars. And then we got a ballad here, Amamos La Vida. If no one's ever heard that, I definitely say definitely check that out. That is a really cool ballad. It's got this really cool classic rock kind of guitar noodling thing going on there, some riffs. Even though it is kind of a ballad, Wolf does sneak in some kind of cool kind of noodly riffs in there. But that's a really cool ballad. And we got Sick, Dirty, and Mean. We just a heavy, dirty riff. It almost turns even speedy at times. Not full speed, but it is a speedy track. Sick, Dirty, and Mean. And the last song, I believe, this one's for you. Yeah, a nice heavy closer. And it's actually another kind of a speedy track. Not full on speed metal, but it is an upbeat, speedy track. And great guitar playing on this one's for you as well, the closer. Yeah. I don't know if you ever got into Objection Overruled as much as I did. Probably not, but who knows?
But as I said to you before we started the show, I don't think there's a one bad Accept album. I I like every album really. They're all solid, Accept is overall one of my favorite bands, I would say. And yeah, I they've all got a special place, really. I my top five list could change tomorrow, possibly. You know, just like when you were talking about sitting there just before and thinking, well, I'm going to move this one to there. Just depends on the day. We love the band.
Yeah, actually my pretty well my bottom four, well not bottom four, my top four, or not, my four, my five, four, three, two. I pretty well ended up swapping all of those as I was making my notes, and I, came to some realizations or whatever. But yeah, we'll go and you'll go next.
Okay, my next one is 1985's Metal Hearts.
Well,
Mainly, I love like songs like Metal Heart, the title track. Midnight Mover is a great one. Up to the Limit is awesome. Screaming for a Love Bite, that's another one of my favorite Accept songs overall. Like, I love that song. And Living for Tonight, another killer classic track. My only downfall with this album, I know you've been like, oh, come on, man, is I find the production on at least the album I've got is like super quiet. And
wow.
even on Apple Music, I listen to theirs on there and it's quiet. So I don't know whether I just got the two dud versions that I could get, but to me, if there isn't a remastered one, which I'm sure you said there was.
I don't know what version I have. I think I have an old one. I don't know.
Yeah, to me, if the production was changed on the copies that I have access to, that album can be higher, man, because it's a killer album. The production's just what knocks it down a bit for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you said "Screaming for a Love Bite," I definitely wrote that down on my notes there, and I wrote down that like if somebody wasn't an Accept fan or if they never really heard Accept, that would probably be the song that I play to them to win them over. Is "Screaming for a Love Bite." Obviously it's not the most headbanger or speediest track, but I just think overall it's just a great tune, and if I was trying to win someone over, that's probably be the song I'd play.
Oh, it's catchy as hell.
Yeah. I pretty well wrote down like it's overall it's a brilliant song, and that would be like a song that I play to someone to try to win them over. And all right, next we got. Oh, is that right? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because I flipped all these around. But yeah, I guess my third favorite. Originally, I thought this would be higher. I did just have this as my second, but then when I making my notes, I dropped it down to third. It's not a bad thing, like you were saying. Pretty well, almost every Accept album is great or good.
Yeah.
I'd probably say maybe I'm a Rebel is probably my least favorite, or Predator for Udo era. Predator is pretty mid-paced, long. It's overall good. It's pretty mid-paced and long, and after a while of hearing 4, 5, 8, 10 mid-paced songs, you're like, okay, I've kind of had enough of this sort of thing. But yeah, that's here nor there. But my third favorite would be Restless and Wild, and yeah, this is going to be an all-art classic, and I think that's actually a lot of people's number one. I don't, not maybe not, but not a lot. Sorry, but I'd say that is probably a lot of people's number one, just based off a few songs in particular. But I'm one of those guys. I judge an album, the whole album, not just one or two tracks. So even though we do have some great tracks on there, "Fast as a Shark," which is pretty well a speed metal template later on that speed metal bands could have used as inspiration, maybe not fully except "Fast as a Shark," but Motorhead and things like that. But that is still "Fast as a Shark," one of an early speed metal template track. Ahead of the Pack, we got some cool. There's actually some cool little studio effects near the end of the song, right before leading into the guitar solo. It's actually really cool. There's some cool studio effect going on there near the middle of the song, leading into the solo. Really cool stuff. Demon's Night, there's a really cool guitar tone going on there, and it's almost like it's really Demon's Night. It's really heavy, like almost in a doomy type of way. It's actually weird. When I was listening to that song, I was like, how do I describe this? And I was like, it's actually almost kind of doomy. And like I've never actually said that or thought about that on an Accept song until I was really focusing it on. And after I wrote down this cool guitar tone, I was like, how else could I explain this? It's actually kind of doomy. So that's a Demon's Night there. If anyone wants to check that out, if you're thinking, what's he talking about, doomy? Oh, I'm serious. Check it out. It is kind of doomy in a way. And then the other song that I think people would put this album so high is Princess of the Dawn. Princess of the Dawn. It's Princess of the Dawn is like almost a ballad, but it's not. Like the pace just keeps going just enough for it not to be a ballad. So that's kind of something kind of cool and different, where it's like it has like the vibe of a ballad, but then the pace just keeps up just enough for it not to be a ballad. So it's Princess of the Dawn. But yeah, those are kind of my standout tracks from Restless and Wild.
That would have been an honorable mention for me, I think. Yeah, it didn't make my top 5, but it was a tough choice to leave off.
Well, when you said that could be an honorable mention, I was like, oh, that means it's not on his 5. But yeah, obviously there are some classic songs, some iconic songs, and I thought I'd have, obviously pretty much the whole album is good, but I'm talking about super standout tracks.
Yeah.
I thought I'd have some more super standout tracks, so that's actually why I bumped it down to third. And we'll see next what my second one that took over that one was. So we'll wait for that one, and if you want to go ahead.
Okay, my next third pick, or pick number 3, is 1981's Breaker album. Like we kind of talked about it. I forget which podcast we sort of mentioned Breaker in, but I think it's the album where Accept starts to hit their stride, really. Like, that's, I just find this such a great album because you got Son of a Bitch. I love that song. Another catchy one. It's right up there. Midnight Highway. I find lots of catchy songs on this one.
Mhm.
And
I love this album too. I do.
yeah, and the album's got great flow to it.
Well, and I think right off the bat, you can notice how this would have been coming after I'm a Rebel,
Yep.
and Udo just pretty well just did a complete flip. He just said, "Screw it, I'm going balls out. I'm just going super outlandish for my shrieks and screams." And he's just he sounds incredible on this album. I think I don't know which one what show you're talking about specifically, but I know I did a favorite vocal albums, and I had a Breaker up there as one of my favorite vocal performances because Udo is just crazy on this album. He sounds incredible.
Yeah, I think that's the one that we were talking about it. And yeah, it's such a great flowing album. It's rocking and
The guitar V's in the back there. But yeah, actually, well, that even it kind of lines up perfectly with me. Not perfectly because that was your third, but that's actually my second pick. This is the one that overtook Restless and Wild because I did realize how much I love this album and how incredible it is and how amazing Udo is. You know, obviously the band's good as well, but Udo shines all over this album. He's just screaming and outlandish and just all
yeah,
over the top. And yeah, I have a bunch of standout tracks from this one. Yeah, Starlight right from the get go. It's just like, wow, Udo sounds amazing here. It's just like, he's just Starlight, and it's just so high and just incredible. And we got Breaker. It's just a fast headbanger, great drumming, nice, fast, speedy track on Breaker. Can't Stand the Night. And that's actually a ballad, I believe. Yeah, a ballad. And that's one of my more favorite ballads, probably ever. Probably one of my more favorite ballad performances ever. Like, Udo does some really good singing on that track. I'm not going to really touch on my detailed vocalist because I don't really know all that kind of stuff. But there is some kind of like spots where it kind of tails off, and then he just like unleashes his high pitched stuff, and it just lends well to that ballad. Can't Stand the Night. Love that song. And then Son of a Bitch, You Asshole. Yeah, Son of a Bitch, You Asshole. And it's actually cool about Son of a Bitch is it's nice. It's almost. I was trying to think of how to describe the riff, the riff that's going on, the tone on that Son of a Bitch song, and it's almost like this scary, haunting type riff. It almost reminds me of like a Sabotage song from the Sirens album. I know I don't think you're a Sabotage guy, but anyway, there's kind of like this scary, haunting riff on "Son of a Bitch." Almost also reminded me of like a Sam Hain song with Danzig, where there's kind of some haunting, scary kind of riffs and things like that. But anyway, and then obviously Midnight Highway, and Midnight Highway is cool. It almost has like this carryover classic rock vibe,
yeah,
but it's not like it. Yeah, it almost seems like whatever they were touching on some classic rock roots, and it's just a really cool Great song that has these classic rock vibes on there, Midnight Highway. And that is my number two.
Sweet. Good pick.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
guess what's your number two?
My number two, which you had earlier, 1983's Balls to the Wall. I This is the best flowing Accept albums. How can you go wrong with the title track for one? You're at a show, like you were at metal shows, and this came on in between sets, and you'd have people just rocking out to it. I just miss times like that.
There's this looking at the back reading it. It's a cool little shot there. Who's got the fist there? Yeah, who's got the everything's background. Who's got the fist up there? But yeah, I actually originally had this album my number four, and then I swapped it to my fifth. So that I opened up the show with this one. But the reason I did have it number five, and I did end up flip flopping it because the first half is great, like the first 4 or 5. I love all the first 4, 5 songs or whatever, and then the back half kind of tails off for me. Like it's good, but they're not like super catchy. They're not super memorable. Like some of them are, but some of them aren't.
Like I personally love Winter Dreams. I that to me that's one of Udo's favorite ballady songs of mine.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. I didn't even write that down as a standout track, so it probably didn't touch me as much as it touches you.
I don't know. I just find it's a cool, just chill song, and it's got a good vibe to it. Yeah, I don't know. I pretty well love. Well, I think every song on this album is fairly solid. I just like I say, to me, it's one of their best flowing albums. So I think it just cruises along good, and it's not any tracks that I feel like, oh man, I got to skip that one or something. Just had enough type thing.
Yeah, yeah, like I know, yeah, I remember when I was just going through this and making notes. Um, I mainly listened to most of the first half, and then some of the back half. I didn't listen to as much as the first half, and I think that's why I did drop it down. But obviously, nonetheless, it's still a great album. Like London Leather Boys is super fun,
Yeah,
and I'd say my standout track from that album is Love Child. I love
yeah.
that one.
And Losers and Winners, that's another solid track. I I don't know. I can pick stuff from the back end that I like too. So yeah, that's why it made number two for me.
Ah, cool. Yeah. Well, it's interesting that we're doing this because most of ours are all kind of different. I did kind of. I was thinking if I did do a full-on group show with 4 people, a lot of it would just be the same. So that's why it is just the two of us because, like, I think between the two of us, we'd probably get a good mix, so to speak, rather than just having 4 people and it just all be the same and with 2 hours of the same thing, sort of thing. But
Yeah,
uh, that's why I just thought it would be cool just to do the two of us on this, just because, yeah, Accept does have some key albums that are gonna get picked regardless
yeah.
of so. Um, so I guess we're already at my number one, which is cool. We're doing a little faster show here, but it is cool because. But before I do my number one, this is not my number one, but I did want to touch on the first Accept album. I know a lot of people, a ton of people, do not give this album credit at all. They pretend it doesn't even exist. They don't listen to it. They say it sucks, or they don't maybe not say it sucks, but they say, man, skip it, or don't listen to it, or whatever. And I wanted to put this on the show because I did listen. Well, I listened to it a lot, but I made some notes on it, and that's when I really realized I could have easily stuck this in my top five. I could have bumped out Balls to the Wall. I'm not kidding, and put this album in. So um, I'm urging anyone watching at home. This album actually holds up really well for 1979, and here we are, 2021. So I can't even do the math on that, but here we are, 42 years later, and this album actually, for 42 years old, this album actually sounds really good. No, Udo doesn't have his full-on screaming that he, mastered a couple albums later, but I'm urging people, recheck this album out, give it a chance. Like, I had a ton of standout tracks from this album. I think this album deserves so much more respect and credit than people give it. And some of the standout tracks I had in this one was Lady Lou, Take Him in My Heart. Oh man, I really love that track. That's a 10 out of 10 track. Take Him in My Heart. We got Sounds of War, Free Me Now, another super standout track, Free Me Now. It's almost like an early speed metal track. I'm not going to say speed metal, but it almost has like that early speed metal vibe here. And we're talking 79 here, so that's cool. That's a must re-listen. If you give one song a chance on this album to win you over, please play Free Me Now. And then we got Glad to Be Alone. That's a great ballad. It's kind of a great ballad. And we got That's Rock and Roll, kind of a hoppity fun track. That's Rock and Roll, track number 8. And we got the very last song, Street Fighter. That's a cool sounding song. It's actually kind of really different. I didn't even know how to describe it. I couldn't really describe it in proper words or words that I could come up with, but Street Fighter is just really kind of a different track for Accept. Obviously, a lot of this stuff on 79 was a little bit different for them. Well, not full on heavy metal yet, but I'd say that's another track where re-listen to it and you'll see what I'm saying about it's got a different sound to it, but it's still great. Really cool. And no, that's not my number one, but I did just want to touch on, I think people should give this more of a chance. I think this album is great. I could have easily had it in my top 5 or tied for any of the other albums, and I almost bumped out Balls to the Wall for that album because that's how highly I think of that album.
I like I said earlier, it's another solid album. There is no bad Accept album. It's not like they've got a Lulu to their collection. But yeah, you can't go wrong listening to that, no matter what.
Yeah, well, I was going to say something. I forgot something about the first one, but no, I don't think I can remember in time. But yeah, interesting logo that they had there too. They didn't really care, mind you. They didn't really care on that. I don't know what that looks like to you. Kind of looks like a lion or something. Maybe that is, and then it came out and I'm a Rebel, and they expanded the little lion face or whatever. But yeah, interesting. Who knows who the girl is? I don't know if anyone ever knew. I don't know if that girl was ever real, if this was a photo, or if that's a painting, or an altered photo.
I have no idea.
I'm looking at it now, and it looks like it might have been a real picture, but then someone like played around with it and goofed it up a bit. I don't know, or it could be half real, half painting. Anyway, that's something to look at after some history of who that girl was on that album. Anyway, my actual real number one is Metal Heart, and here we are. Except 1985, they've done some albums. They've done what, 4, 5 albums at this point. And so at this point, they have their sound locked in. They're fully polished and ready to go in the studio. And when I say polished, I don't mean polished in a bad way. I mean polished in a great way. Like, they are all around great. They got the gang vocals, the guitar. Udo knows how to do Udo knows how to do what he's doing. So I think this is just one of those albums where they are locked in. They are fully, I don't want to say polished in a bad way, but they're fully polished in a good way. Like they polished all the edges and they got it all perfect on this album. And I'd say most of this album is a standout track for me. The whole thing's a one standout track. But I did write down a bunch of or a bunch of standout tracks. But yeah, right from the title track, Metal Heart, you could already tell that this band is like a well polished band. Again, in a good way. We got the gang vocals, amazing guitar. There's a cool little right before it leads into the solo. There's some cool guitar noodling and things like that leading into the solo, and then the solo itself is amazing. And we got Midnight Mover, fun riff, kind of a fun riff and fun beat, and there's a nice sing along chorus on Midnight Mover. We got Up to the Limit. Up to the Limit's like this huge arena metal sound. Udo sounds stunning, so it's just all happening there and Up to the Limit. And I love those big arena metal, arena rock, arena hard rock sound, and that pretty well this could have been pretty well the start of that or huge arena metal, huge arena rock sound. Maybe not except specifically, but right around 85, 86, that big arena rock production started coming out, and Up to the Limit has that going on. We got Wrong is Right, and Wrong is Right is almost veering into a speed type track. It's very speedy. I'm not going to say speed metal, but it is a very fast, speedy, up tempo song. That's Wrong is Right. We got Screaming for a Love Bite. Again, that's I talked about it when you mentioned Screaming for a Love Bite. How overall I think that's just a brilliant song. And if somebody wasn't an Accept fan and I was trying to win them over, that would probably be the song I'd try to play them to win them over. And we got Teach Us to Survive. This is really interesting. When I was listening to Teach Us to Survive, there's almost like this really cool jazzy fusion drum beat going on. Great guitar work. It almost, again, to Teach Us to Survive, it almost sounds like it could be like, it almost sounds like you're in like a mystery novel or a mystery movie. And I actually wrote down like, it almost could have been like, it almost felt like I was watching Mission Impossible or 007 or something like that. It's like it's got this weird little like mystery vibe about it. Really cool. Teach Us to Survive. So if somebody wants to know what I'm talking, what's he talking about? It's like this mystery 007 type feel. I'm telling you, listen to it. You'll hear what I'm talking about. And then Living for Tonight is the last track. No, Living for Tonight's not the last track, number 9, but second to last track anyway. Living for Tonight. Again, it's got that big open arena rock vibe. Great guitar solo again. So yeah, as my number 1, I have nothing bad to say about this album. Yeah, I pretty well wrote down every track as a standout track. Well, I wrote down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 standout tracks, and the album's 10. So I pretty well had every song as a standout track.
Clearly, you don't hear the production thing that I hear, but
no. Maybe another part of it is I'm so accustomed to EQing everything. Like I have a digital EQer on my computer. So maybe I'm so used to EQing everything I don't even notice because if there are like I don't know if I specifically EQ that album, but I know if something sounds too thin or too thick, I'll adjust my EQ to get it sounding the way I want it. So yeah. If it's never an issue. And then if it is one of those albums that is like a low volume, well, you just turn up the volume. So
I don't know. To me, turning the volume up doesn't really help it so much, but like obviously I still love it enough to make my top 5.
Well, I know I would have to maybe specifically hear what you're talking about with the production, but in terms of me, what I wrote down, for me, it seems like it has a great production because I wrote down on Up to the Limit, it's got this huge arena metal sound, and then I wrote down on Living for Tonight, it's got this big open arena rock sound. So if it's got that big arena rock production, it's good. That means it's good. That means it's big and full.
Huh.
So, oh yeah, and then I did mention that Accept. So I did my top 5, and yeah, Metal Heart is my number 1 for sure.
Okay, my number 1, 2010's Blood of the Nations.
Wow.
Yeah, it's got my favorite Accept song on it, which ironically in the days we're living in, pandemic, the last thing anybody wants to hear about anymore. But yeah, I freaking love that song so much. And Teutonic Terror is another badass song. Just this is another great flowing Accept album, just start to finish for me. And plus, as I said earlier, this is the album that kind of sealed the deal for me on Accept, really, for loving them. And yeah, it's got a sentimental place. So I think that's another part of it. So, trying to think. Beat the Bastards, another great song. Uh, yeah, there's not a song I really hate on it at all or find skippable. I just find them all solid and like I say, lots of people in 2010 thought that was the album of the year. I thought it was the album of the year after I got it. After not hearing anything of it before, I just went out, bought it, thought, must be good with this many people liking it. And it it hooked me.
I've had a few people tell me to listen to that one. I do remember hearing, Blood for the Nations, that people recommended or telling me you must listen to this, you got to listen to it, and I was just so stubborn. I'm like, no, I'm not selling out on Udo, but knowing that is your number one, I ain't gonna lie. I'd like to probably listen to that as soon as the show's over, but I'm probably accepted out here for the night. I'm accepted out. But tomorrow, I'm not kidding. I'm gonna make a note. As soon as I get home from work, I'm listening to Blood for the Nations or Blood of the Nations because I want to know how good it is.
Yeah, and get sick during pandemic.
Yeah, no, I also want to hear that song. I'm interested, but I'm highly interested to hear that now. Uh, I would like to hear it right after the show ends, but I'm probably accepted out. I was
Yeah,
probably listening to that for a couple hours before the show, just as I was making my notes and things like that. So I'm probably accepted out, but I'm gonna make a note to definitely listen to that tomorrow. Or well, in general, I got to get into all these newer accepts actually because I am over that. I am over that feeling of okay, I got to be loyal to Udo. I'm over that now, I think. So I think it's time for me that I do get into the newer accepts.
well, thinking of other accept, like I think even Eat the Heat should get a mention in there, like the accept singer, David Reese.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, good one.
yeah. I think even that's a solid album. I don't even it doesn't sound like either Mark or Udo, but it it has a good place. I think. I
Yeah,
it's worth.
I'll be honest, I've never heard that either. I had another guy besides you. I know you always swear by it and say, "Hey, it's actually good." There's another guy that I talked to where he swears by it too. He just says it's incredible.
Yeah, I think it's worth listening to. Like it it's not one of those like it's the other accept guy and just write that one off. But yeah, I
It's funny actually. Right before you even, right as you were saying it, I totally forgot that even existed. I totally forgot that even existed. Oh man, because what was that? Was that 89, 88? I don't even remember. I think it was 89, 88.
yeah, it's good. We're in the middle of the era of accept, but
I guess it didn't go over too well because the whole band just disbanded after that. But yeah, I don't know. It does seem like the album is probably okay, but then I guess it was probably a record label thing where the record label was so used to selling so many albums with Udo, and then they didn't sell as many with them, and they said they probably just fizzled away, and then Wolf and the rest of the gang probably didn't have much. They probably didn't have much enthusiasm after the lack of sales. Who knows?
I'm not too sure the full story on why his tenure was so short.
It probably was one of those things where the record company wasn't super thrilled, and the band probably wasn't super enthusiastic about the lack of sales and all those kind of things. But since that was a major thing back then, sales, 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 everything was numbers, numbers, numbers. So that probably was probably the only reason. Because beyond that, the music itself is probably good.
Yeah, like I say, I enjoy that album. I bought it. Well, as you know, I got all of the Accept albums, but
Hmm.
yeah, I, like I say, Accept doesn't have uh, Saint Anger or a Lulu in their, so to speak, in their catalog.
Well,
But
I'd say if people would say I'm a rebel would be their off one.
I got some great songs on it too. Like,
It does. I know I can't help shaking the AC/DC vibe that's all over that album. It's something about it. Well, I didn't even know Udo was trying to write a couple songs for AC/DC and it didn't really work out. So then he just said, screw it. I'll just do it on my own songs. So I don't know. Something about some of that album is a little AC/DC ish, even though some of the songs are good.
you know,
But yeah, I'd say I'm a Rebel's probably my least favorite. Either that or Predator. Even though Predator is good, it's just too mid pacey.
yeah, I'd have to go through and just actually listen to them all in a row, which would be a long day.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Uh,
Uh, do you have a least favorite off the top of your head?
Not really. I don't know. Like they could all fit in there. I think for being in different positions and even towards my top. Like one that neither of us mentioned would be another honorable mention for me. And I can't remember if it was you or my buddy Sean that doesn't really care for the album overall that much, but uh,
Oh, Russian?
yeah, Russian Roulette. That's it. Brain fart there for a second. I I like songs off that album too.
Yeah, oh yeah, I do have it here. Yeah, no, it's great. And that's actually, I was going to bring that up. I was going to bring this up when you talked about production. This is the album for me that's got the weird production that, obviously, a lot of the songs are great, but I think it does have a weird kind of mix. Maybe it's not the production itself. Maybe it's just like the mix and mastering that's kind of, it doesn't like some of it's disconnected. I don't know if I'm saying that properly, right? But no, it is a great song, and I think this is probably some people. I'm sure some people watching this could be their second or first favorite. I'm sure a lot of people would have this in their top five. So I actually thought you were gonna have it in your top five, actually.
I To me, it was one of my honorable mentions, as I mentioned. It was pick and choose, and yeah, the five that made it are the ones that made the cut for me on the last few weeks or something. However long I made this list up now.
Yeah, no, I actually, it's funny now you do when you do bring up Russian roulette. I thought you were gonna have this in your top five, and it's actually surprising that you didn't. Well, again, Accept has so many albums, it is hard to get them all in there. So,
Oh, totally.
but yeah, no, I'm actually surprised. I know just talking to you, casually through Facebook that I thought this was going to be in your top five. And
Actually, mention it. Remember when you were saying what I would pick for my least favorite? Off the top of my head, I'm just going to say Blind Rage is the one that didn't quite connect with me as much as I thought it should, probably.
oh,
It's not a problem, but it's just okay.
so you're trying to tell me if I see that come up cheap used, don't buy it?
Well, you could get it, but like I say, it's not a bad album. It just with Accept, that's the one that doesn't grasp me as much as the others.
Hmm. That's interesting. That's interesting that that is one of the newer era ones, and if the newer era, if most of them are good, it's just weird that there'd be
Yeah,
one in.
now middle of era, really. I think he's done 5 now off the top of my head.
Oh, five, yeah. Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah,
And
the third one he did, I want to say.
I should have had my Udo poster. Oh, there it is. I'll get that. I'll get the because I snatched a poster from the show. I don't remember how I got it. I don't know if I got it that night or if I got it a couple weeks before when we had a previous concert and I yanked it down at the rickshaw. I'm gonna get the poster though. I'm gonna show the poster right here on the camera for the show where we went. But I got it really taped on. Oh shit! I don't even know if I'll get it off. Oh yeah, I got it. I got it. Oh yeah, check out this cool Udo poster right here. March 18, 2018, Rickshaw Theater, Vancouver. Except in Elm Street. Elm Street was actually pretty good. They're pretty cool. I've actually checked them out before, like post show.
Yeah, it seems to me I remember them being pretty decent.
And actually, it's funny. After the show, I went and downloaded. I went and got all their downloaded all their albums, and I was actually surprised to see that they did have so many Elm Street. Elm Street has like 4 or 5 albums out here. I was thinking they're a brand new band, but they've been around for like 10, 15 years. They have I think they had like 5 albums or something like that. So that is something surprising. But yeah, it's funny about this is yeah, farewell to Accept tour. The funny thing is I'm sure anyone knows that Udo was doing this farewell tour and farewell to Accept. So what he was saying is that this is going to be the last time he ever performs Accept songs. He was going to do this world tour and go to Germany, go to Canada, go to US, go everywhere in the world, and it's his last time he's playing Accept songs. Anyway, it's bullshit because he's still playing Accept songs. I was watching a couple of concert. He put out a live CD just last year, and I looked at the track list, and there's Accept songs. He's still playing Accept songs, so it's just one of those farewell scams that all the bands do. Oh, Kiss farewell tour, Aerosmith farewell tour, bullshit.
They don't want to do a full Accept song tour. Like he's probably going to do like the Udo stuff or Dirk Schneider and just throw a few Accept ones in there. And because like his new album that came out, his Udo album, freaking amazing. As I've told you or talked with you about a few times, that's one of my favorite albums this year that came out.
Yeah, it's good. It's pretty good. I'd say it's like I haven't listened to it in a ton to where like a lot of the songs are in my brain sort of thing, but there was definitely a lot of catchy songs and good songs and overall good songs. If I had to rank it just off the top of my head, it'd be like 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I would say it's my second favorite song this year, or album this year, over just under Iron Maiden's Sinjitsu.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
well, well, if we get into Iron Maiden Sinjitsu talk or Iron Maiden in general, that's a whole show on itself. And yeah, Sinjitsu is not too bad, but we're not we're not going to get into that. That's a freaking. You go on the internet and you just check out the comments underneath Sinjitsu. Anytime anyone talks about that album, you just check out the comments, and it's just like they either love it or hate it. There's not like much of a middle ground. It's either they love it or hate it. So that's just like a super controversial album already.
yeah, I noticed that too. But I just found those two albums I listened to the most for new albums this year.
Well, and just out of curiosity, did you end up getting a tour shirt or anything when we went at the show?
Yeah, I got a tour shirt. I've actually got a poster signed by him as well.
Oh, you did a meet and greet.
Yeah,
Oh, cool, cool. He's probably not as tall as you were thinking, eh? Well, no, you're not super tall
I
either.
was when I did the meet and greet. So
Sorry, what was that? I missed the first part.
he was sitting when we did the meet and greet. So
Oh, he was sitting. Oh, wow. Oh, interesting. Oh, cool, cool. Oh,
even though,
he seems like a super jolly guy.
yeah, he was just all right. I don't know. He didn't seem super excited to meet everybody or anything. He just did his thing, and yeah, he even took pictures sitting in the chair with the whole band. Well, Sven, his son, and I forget what the bass. I'm sure it was the bass player at the time that was did the meet and greet too.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I like that guitar player that he's got. That guy's cool. He's like a cool character type guy. On stage, he's quite the character.
Yeah, the time he I can't even think of the guitar player he had at the time, but uh, yeah, his name's escaping me right now. And
Yeah.
but he didn't do the meet and greet.
Oh, okay. Huh, well, yeah, well, cool. There we go. We got our accept show. We got some. We picked our five favorite each, and some things for people to check out. Some of the newer ones, if you're not familiar, you got Joey's favorite newer ones. The Blood. Sorry, which ones? Which two new ones did you pick?
Blood of the Nations was my number one, and my number five was Rise of Chaos.
Right. So we got some two newer ones to check out: Rise of the Chaos and Blood of the Nations. And then for me, I think my one for even though it didn't even make my five, I say my one to check out, or I mean, for people to give a chance is that First Accept. So please give this a chance. It's much better than you remember, and it actually holds up much better than you would imagine. But there we go. We got our Accept show. Thanks so much for doing this show and chatting with me here.
Yeah, great one. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks so much. And I guess we'll say our goodbyes and subscribe, Mosh, and see you later.
Now rock out, everyone.